So you guys are all aware the Israelis have a detention center called Sde Teiman. It's in the Negev desert in the Naqab. And they arrested, the military police went in and arrested 10 of the Israeli soldiers in this base for raping a Palestinian hostage. It was so bad that the hostage had to be hospitalized. And we've heard of many cases like this where, you know, there's rape, there's sexual abuse going on, and the Israelis do nothing. So just imagine how bad it was that they actually did something. And the country, the colony is going wild. Like, it's a civil war. I'm not kidding. I haven't even told you the rest of the story. If you think this is wild, you haven't seen anything. So this is them, first of all, being like offended that they're being questioned at all. Okay, watch the video.
בוא כנסו לבפנים. אני תאמין לי שאני לא רוצה בלגן ואתם לא רוצים את הבלגן. הוא נכנס לבפנים, אתה רוצה להתקדם. בוא תתקדם, תסתכל בעיניים שלך שכולם בפנים. כנס לבפנים עכשיו. המפקד שלנו יגיד שהוא הולך לחקירה, אני עוזר לך. לא קיבלנו הוראה, הוא לא יוצא, נגמר. צור נתן. משטרה צבאית לעצור אותנו, בגלל שאנחנו אחראים על המחבלים של הנוח'בה. רבותיי עם ישראל, אני מבקש מכם, צאו למעננו לרחוב. אני לא מוכן לבושה הזאת שיעצרו אותי. אני נתתי את החיים שלי בשבילכם למען עם ישראל. צאו להילחם בשבילנו. זאת בושה מה שעושים לנו. צריכים לעצור אותי, אני לוחם של מדינת ישראל. בחקירות שאולי עשו משהו לאנשי
Okay, so that's what they did. The Israelis went out and overran the base. Okay, just to be clear, they didn't go and protest outside the base. No. They overran the base. Okay? Now keep in mind, this is a sealed off area. Okay? No one is allowed to go in. I'll just remind you, when CNN tried to film there, this is the response that they got. This is what they were telling them.
From CNN.
They tried to take our cameras.
Give me please now. Give me please now.
Hang on, what is it that you want? My camera or my card?
Then order us to leave.
Okay? So it's a sealed off military base. For the Israelis, when it's time to defend 9 rapists, suddenly it's no longer off limits. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. It's absolutely nuts. Really, like, they know that people are being abused in the prison. They know people are being raped in the prison. Never tried to overrun it. Never tried to storm the base. But then as soon as it's time to defend the rapists, suddenly the security, goes out the window. Suddenly everybody can walk in, just push the gate, just walk in. I mean, unbelievable. Like the lengths that they're going to defend these rapists. And yet you have seen nothing. I'm not even close to being done. This is nothing. This is nothing. Just wild, okay? So then they started storming the military police headquarters to try and get them out. Look at this. Do you see how they're all standing on the other side just staring at them? I mean, when Palestinians were in Gaza were doing the right to return marches, they were like, hundreds of meters away, and they would be shot by snipers. But in this case, it's okay. You're defending rapists, so it's fine. That's accepted in Israel. So they look like they're going to have a civil war, and yet you see nothing. Okay? And yet I'm not even done. Just look at this. I mean, it's I think you get the idea. I think you get the idea. Well, guess what? They just stormed another base. So they stormed the first one, which is the prison. I mean, I call it a rape dungeon. I don't know about you, but I think Sde Teiman is a rape dungeon. And that's the only thing you can call it. So they stormed Sde Teiman, the rape dungeon, to stop the police, the military police, from arresting the soldiers. They failed. Then they took them away. So they stormed the military police headquarters, and now they've stormed another base. Okay? To the point that look, this is from the Israeli papers. They're saying that the riots are harming the military. This is the chief of the IDF, of the Israeli army, saying that the riots are harming the military and the security of the Israeli colony. So the second base that they've stormed is Beit Lid. Okay? I mean, the level of mobilization to try and defend rapists is incredible. And then they held an emergency session in the Knesset, which is their parliament. And when I show you the video that I'm about to show you, this is the highlight. Okay, I've been building up to get to this point. I mean, you're not gonna believe your eyes and ears when you hear this stuff. I swear to God, I've shown you some wild crap. This is the wildest.
ואני חושב שצריך פה לתת דוגמה אישית, ואני אומר עכשיו, ואני קורא לחברי הקואליציה לעשות כמוני, אני קם ואני יוצא מפה, ואני לא הולך להצביע יותר על שום דבר, עד שהסיפור הזה והטרלול הזה, שיש מי שבפרקליטות חושב שאפשר לבוא ולעצור חיילים על דברים שעושים למחבלי נוח'בה, לא נגמר. אוקיי? ואני מאוד מבקש, ואני חושב שחבריי בקואליציה טוב יעשו, אם יעשו כמוני. אנחנו לא יכולים להמשיך כרגיל.
להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו.
אוקיי.
הכל.
מצוין.
הכל.
זה מה שרציתי.
הכל, האנשים האלה, אתה יודע מה עשו?
אוקיי.
טוב.
יש דברים שלא עושים.
ואני חושב...
Yeah, he actually said it. You heard your ears correctly and your eyes did not deceive you. He asked him to insert a stick in a person's rectum. Is that legitimate? And then he says, shut up. Yes, if he is a nukhba, everything is legitimate to do. Forget Israeli law, international law, human rights, whatever. Of course you can torture and rape prisoners. What do you mean? I love this display so much, because it's decadent. It's so decadent. It's literally Sodom. It's literally Sodom. The Israelis are showing the whole world what a decadent society they are. Because this is just the first discussion we have seen recorded and broadcast. It's just the first one. Okay? But it's not the first time this has happened. And these cases in prison are not the first to happen. Not in this war and not in general. Okay? So to see them publicly humiliating themselves like this, where they are having a civil war to defend the right to rape prisoners, I mean, that's just amazing, really. That says it all. It's gotten so bad, and here's the cherry on top, okay? I'm going to give you the cherry on top now. The Israelis have diverted combat units from Gaza, out of Gaza, to go deal with the rioting. I mean, this is literally costing them the war effort, okay? It's eating away at the war effort. And they're even telling the newspapers, look at this, that these riots are delaying discussions of reprisal against Hezbollah. Now, again, reprisal is a ridiculous word because the children that were killed are Syrian, right? The Golan Heights are Syrian. None of them have Israeli citizenship, etc., etc. But, you know, the fact that they are stopping, they're putting the discussions on hold. All right, look. So they're saying that over the past day, the IDF says it has been preparing for its retaliation against Hezbollah. Rioting has been a major distraction. Top IDF officers, including Chief of Staff Halavi, stopped critical discussions on the north to deal with the infiltration into the bases. And they've gone and as it says here, they're visiting the bases. I mean, this is just amazing. This is unbelievable. Have you ever seen anything like this in your life? It's difficult. It's difficult to find examples like this. It's very difficult. Here, you can see also these statements from Netanyahu. Netanyahu says that he strongly condemns. You would think he's about to say strongly condemns raping prisoners, and then it's just a break-in. It's just a break-in. That's what he strongly condemns, nothing else. And Ben Gvir, you know, who is the security minister, the nut job. He was saying that, you know, they should take their hands off of the Israeli soldiers, and that you know, they have to be defended. And, you know, I mean, he's basically saying they've done nothing wrong. And if you read the language that they're using in the Israeli media, they're calling these people, these rapists, holy soldiers. Those are the exact words. Holy soldiers. Okay? Holy soldiers. I mean, I don't know about you, but, you know, that doesn't sound like a lot of holy duty, torturing prisoners. But okay, that's just Israel's point of view. So, you know, the funny thing is also when the military police came to arrest the rapists in the morning, I showed you this video in the beginning, right? Here. I showed you this in the beginning. It didn't go down like this. There wasn't just like an angry, you know, quarrel in the courtyard. That's not what happened. The soldiers barricaded themselves to stop the military police from coming in, and they pepper sprayed them. They pepper sprayed them, man. And then on top of that, the ones who were not suspected of rape, but who are probably rapists as well because they work in the rape dungeon, they were trying to help the 9 suspects to flee the scene. Have you ever heard of anything like this in your life? And then, after everything I've shown you in the last 10 minutes, please, you tell me now. I'm going to read you what the BBC wrote about all of this, and you tell me if this sounds reasonable to you. So their headline says, Israeli protesters enter army base after soldiers held over Gaza detainee abuse. That's a bit vague. Detainee abuse. What abuse? Verbal abuse? Did they, you know, spit in his face? I mean, what kind of abuse? I think the word you're looking for is rape. When you shove a stick up someone's ass, I mean, I think it's fair, and you gang rape them. It's 9 soldiers doing that to one person, and they're bleeding from their rectum, and they're hospitalized. I would call that rape. I think most people would call that rape. But the BBC calls it abuse, which is very vague, and of course, protects the Israelis and their image, if they even have one. And then underneath, they say Israeli far-right protesters have broken into an army base in a show of support for soldiers accused of severely mistreating a Palestinian prisoner there. There we go again, with this language, severely mistreating. What does that mean, severely mistreating? They threw them off of a building, you know, they, I don't know, they invited them to lunch and then didn't pay the bill. Like, what level of mistreatment are we talking about? If we're talking about someone being, you know, bleeding from the rectum because of a gang rape, I think severely mistreating is an understatement, to put it mildly. No pun intended. Okay? So, you know, if you're like most people who don't read the news and don't know, you know, don't understand they're being lied to and fall for this stuff, you have no idea what's going on. You know, most people are not even going to read the article. And even if you do read the article, you have to read like several paragraphs to get anywhere near any mention of what actually happened. What happened to this prisoner? Why did these people get arrested by the military police? Right? So it's going down, 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 down. I mean, there's 9-10 paragraphs here. And then finally, you get to, of course, they have to put first that they're a suspected Hamas fighter, you know, so they can kind of like try to justify putting shoving a stick up their ass. So they, you know, they're a Hamas fighter, maybe. So that's why they shoved a stick up their ass. And then down here, they say serious sexual abuse and injuries to his anus that left him unable to walk and bleeding. You forgot the bleeding part. So, you know, I look, I'm halfway down the article before there's any mention of sexual abuse, any. And the whole point is the sexual abuse. So I find this, you know, I mean, you can call it whatever you want, gross misconduct, you know, propaganda, hasbara. It's garbage. I mean, really, just if I had a printer with me right now, I'd print it out in front of you and just, you know, throw it in the trash. That's what I think of this article. It's such a typical piece of BBC nonsense to cover for the Israelis. And this is criminal. You know, some savvy lawyers might come here and argue that this is criminal behavior. Now, I'm not into jailing journalists. I think, contrary to many people who work at the BBC, I'm against that. But I'm just saying that the level of complicity with the Israelis is so high that, you know, it's like as if they're just a PR department of the Israeli foreign ministry. That's how bad it is. And they've done this also last week with Mohammed Bahar, who was mauled by an Israeli army dog. They just whitewashed the whole story. So, you know, it's incredible to me. And it's not just the BBC. I just picked this one as an example. If you go and read the other headlines, and again, it's like, you know, they're talking about riots in Israel. What riots? You mean the rape riots, the defending soldiers' right to rape riots? Yeah, those ones. Look, it's incredible. So, you know, they're diverting these combat battalions. So Battalion 50 in Nahal, then Sayeret Nahal and David Hasharon. 46 from Brigade 401. You'll forgive me, I'm not that good at reading Latinized versions of Hebrew, which are themselves bastardized versions of Arabic. But anyway, so you know, it's incredible that they are actually indirectly helping Hezbollah and Hamas, or I should say Palestinians and you know, Lebanese, by being so decadent that, you know, this is a thing that, you know, you just defend rape. And just if I can draw your attention to previous examples, because I've shown you them, but this is what goes on in this rape dungeon. You know, everyone is sat on the floor, they're mumbling to themselves, forbidden from speaking with one another, blindfolded, they're cuffed so tight. You have people who have to have their legs chopped off, amputated by the Israelis in this prison specifically. I mean, again, in this rape dungeon, because they cuff them so tight, okay, that, you know, by the time they're uncuffed, the limb is just useless. It has to be cut off. Several people, right? I mean, it's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And the first time a lawyer has been able to visit this camp, I'm not saying one detainee's lawyer, I'm saying one lawyer at all, ever, was this month on the 1st of July. Okay, that's the first lawyer ever to visit the camp. So, you know, I find this incredible that lawyers can't get in, journalists can't get in, but the Israeli rape defenders can just march in. Israel is such a, you know, it's such a fascinating society, right? Wow, just amazing. So this is the lawyer. He said the situation there in Sde Teiman is more horrific than anything we've heard about Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo. Okay, more than 4,000 Palestinians whom Israel arrested in Gaza have been held at this military base in the Negev and the Naqab. Okay, so honestly, just speaking of Guantanamo and Abu Ghraib, I wanted to show you something here, which has to be brought up. It's this torture technique. Okay, so a former interrogator from Abu Ghraib said that the Israelis trained the United States to use the Palestinian torture chair device, which is this thing, right? So once again, this is a fine Israeli contribution to humanity, a torture device, you know. Well done. So I'm sorry, I have to play this clip again. It's just so wild. I'm sorry, I have to play it again.
להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו. הכל.
מצוין.
I can't believe what's going on. I can't believe it. It's so wild. It's like, you know, you couldn't write something like this. It's so wild. It's truly so wild. But really, I'm I'm laughing at the Israelis and how ridiculous they are, that it's, you know, their whole reputation and image, it's just like crumbling, it's falling apart. Diverting the combat battalions, amazing. But seriously, what's happening to these detainees is not funny. It's really not funny. And I've shown you many videos from people who've been liberated from these camps, from these rape dungeons. Look at this video, for example. This is someone who literally cannot function as a human being anymore because of what was, you know, done to them in this place. By the way, just to be clear, this is not from this war, right? This war. This is an old clip. This is from several years back. So just, you know, you can see how long this has been going on. It's nothing new.
بعدها لف في النقاب وبعدها زدت حالي لاني موجودان الزنازير قيد ورجلي من تحت يطلقوا الكلاب علي عشان تمزعني.
I'll show you also one more. Give me a second. This is another detainee released recently, and you know, you can usually tell with the people released from Sde Teiman because they have these gray tracksuits, prison tracksuits that they're wearing, you know. I mean, you could see it's like a concentration camp, but by no means, don't misunderstand and think this is, you know, torture is only confined to this one place. No, this is one concentration camp among many concentration camps, among many rape dungeons that the Israelis have. Okay, this is only happening. They're only rioting because one person dared to order an arrest. That's it. That's the only catalyst. Otherwise, the rape would just continue like normal. You know, people would have things put in their rectums because they happen to be Palestinian. I mean, you know, look at the state of this man, for example, who was released recently.
ايش اسمك؟ مدار دحلان؟ قديش عمرك؟
30 سنة 29.
They just ask him, what's your name? How old are you? You know.
قديش لك محبوس انت اليوم؟
شهر.
You know, this guy's not well. He's not well. And you know, you see all these scabs on people. There's one thing which I'm surprised the BBC actually did right, which is they showed a clip. I've played it to you before. They filmed a few prisoners who were released from this rape dungeon in Sde Teiman, and one of them was an older man, and they had chopped his leg off after shooting it. So, you know, they shot him, the leg died, and then they had to, I mean, you know, I can't even believe that these are like sentences that are coming out of my mouth because they actually happened. Yeah, they're real. And, you know, you can see all sorts of abuse happening. Here's one person who was, you remember 1 week there was a ceasefire? This is one person who was exchanged for Israeli hostages when there was a prisoner swap for 1 week. And he also talks about sexual abuse in the prisons.
رحمة الله على الشهداء جميعا في كل رجال الوطن. للأمانة أنا خلفت وراي 7000 أسير في حالة يرثى لها. إحنا 60 يوم ماشي من الشمس، 60 يوم من الضرب. وجبات الضرب صباحا ظهرا مساء بالشكل اللي ما بتتخيلوه. ضرب على كل أنحاء الجسم، خصوصا في سجن النقب. سجن النقب مقبرة الأحياء. أكثر من 3000 أسير موجودين في سجن النقب حاليا، منهم يعني ناس مكسرة رجليها، ناس مكسرة إيديها، من ناس مفتحة روسها. رحمة الله على الشهيد أبو غزالة، استشهد كان عندنا في القسم، استشهد في قسم 26. يعني نفسيا وجسديا ومعنويا احنا في حالة يرثى لها. أنا يعني اليوم الصبح أعرف عن إفراجي، ما بعرف عن إفراجي، أنا بعرف إن إفراجي بشهر رمضان. فجأت الصبح بالإفراج، ما صدقتش. حاليا أنا مش مصدق، لأنه أنا بعتبر نفسي كما قال الله يخرج الميت من الحي. فاللي داخل مفقود واللي طالع مولود للأمانة. فلازم تتفعل قضايا تخص الأسرى والصليب لازم يزور. الصليب الأحمر لليوم مزارش السجون، من مرة مزار السجون، وضع السجون يرثى لها، الشباب مكسرة، الشباب محطمة، ضرب على أبو جنب، تحرش جنسي بالمعتقلين، يعني ترقى لحد الاغتصاب، يعني ببالغش لحد الاغتصاب في الأسرى. شتم علينا 24 ساعة، تمزيق للمصحف، تبول على المصحف، منعونا من الأكل، احنا ناكل وجبة في اليوم. أيام طويلة 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 كنا ننام بالعراء بملابسنا النصكم بفرشات على الأرض بدون غطاء. سحبوا منا كل شيء، حتى شبابيك الغرف سحبوها عشان بيعرفوا إنه الجو حاليا في الصحراء بارد. كنا ننام بعيد عنكم وإحنا ماسكين ببعض. المية كانوا يقطعوها عنا، كانت المية توصلنا مية الشرب ساعة في اليوم. حمام السخن، أنا أول امبارح حمام.
I mean, really, again, I've played the whole clip for you before. I could let the guy go on, you know, for ages. The crimes are so many. It's wild. It's really wild. And, you know, I find this incredible, what the Israelis are doing, because they're showing you once again that, you know, when they tell you they're the only democracy in the Middle East, they are nothing like a democracy. I mean, at all. In a democracy, you have rule of law and you have due process. You're supposed to, you know, let things play out. And even then, you know, due process, again, in an Israeli context, what does that mean? Sent to a military court? You know, and I'm talking about when they do that to Palestinian civilians. But my point here is just that they won't even allow an investigation to happen. It's just like, how dare you arrest an Israeli soldier? Because they're all Israeli soldiers. The whole society in this colony is militarized. It's a colony of nut jobs with guns. Every man and woman has to join the army. So when they see people from the army being arrested, they feel personally offended because they are the army. The whole country, the whole colony makes up the army. Do you understand? Every man and woman at 18, you go to the army, you stay as a reservist. So that's why maybe they feel offended. So, I mean, and this idea that, oh, it's a bunch of far-right protesters. No, Ben Gvir is a loudmouth, and yeah, some of his people are out there. But this has been going on, the rape has been going on for a long time. A long time. And you can see this is another thing that's in common with the Americans. Did the Americans not sexually abuse people in Abu Ghraib? Do we not have photographic evidence? It exists. It's there. You've all seen the photographs. We all remember when they came out. So, you know, it's the dogs, it's the you know, making the men rape each other, the staff doing it to the prisoners themselves. You know, the list is long. And it's not a coincidence that Americans and Israelis behave the same way. You can see this also with their proxies, Al-Qaeda and ISIS. You know, they do the same thing. They strip the men, blindfold them, march them in underwear. It's the exact same image. Whether they're prisoners of ISIS, prisoners of the Americans, or prisoners of the Israelis. And we all know that these three work together. They are one in the same. They are one in the same. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that they're doing this. I'm laughing at how it's escalated. So just to recap, these 10 Israelis, these 9 Israeli soldiers, sexually abused a Palestinian hostage to the point they had to be hospitalized. And then there was an investigation was ordered. The military police came. They tried to arrest the rapists. The rapists barricaded themselves and pepper sprayed the military police, and the other soldiers and, you know, people in the rape dungeon helped them, tried to help them escape. Then you have a mob that invaded the base, and then they invaded a second base. They invaded the military police headquarters. The Knesset is openly talking about, you know, the right, in quotation marks, of Israeli soldiers to rape prisoners. And, you know, it's not even like torture, like a vague term of torture. They're literally saying a stick in someone's rectum. I mean, you couldn't be more explicit. It's so vile. It's so vile. And they're just publicly, you know, saying these things. I'm astonished, really, but I shouldn't be, because Israelis don't have shame. So the Knesset is publicly, I've lost count. The Knesset is publicly debating this, you know, and then on top of that, they're diverting combat units away from the front, and they're wasting their so-called precious time to prepare plans for Lebanon to deal with this. I mean, what a roller coaster. Like, what's next? Is someone going to be, you know, I don't want to say it, but, you know, on television, like, what's going to happen right now? My mind is, you know, I don't know what's going on. It's escalating so wildly. You would never see this in a civilized country. Okay, I mean, Israel is not even a country to begin with, but the fact that they are barbarically treating prisoners like this, you know, people in captivity who are in a position of vulnerability, and violating their human rights, and then publicly, you know, insisting that they violate their human rights, and protesting and demanding, you know, defending the rapists. I mean, thank you for showing the world your true colors. I'm actually glad, and thank you for, you know, drawing resources away from your genocide in Gaza. Thank you. I'm actually grateful to these mobs. You know, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're a bunch of morons, and they're publicly humiliating themselves. Keep doing what you're doing, please, by all means. By all means, I beg you, just continue. You know, Christ. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this in your life? Have you ever seen or heard of anything like this? I'm taken aback. Well done, really well done. Scum. I'm sorry, you know, this is scum. And the logic of this, do you know where this comes from? This culture, like how they you know, they bomb children, they kill children. Just today they bombed the Greek Orthodox Church in Gaza again. Well done. And raping prisoners. This comes from the Talmud, because the Israelis, you know, they tell you like, oh, the Bible. They're not into the Bible. They're into the Talmud. They're into this logic that, you know, if someone is not Jewish, they're not a human being. They're you know, like an Untermensch. Like in the Nazis would say subhuman. They say goyim, they say Amalek. And this is what it says in the Talmud. If someone's not Jewish, you can kill them. You can rape them. This is what Israelis believe in. No, they want you to think they're Jewish. They're not actually Jewish. They're into the Talmud. That is that really they're, you know, the foundation of how they think, how they fight, how they live, all of it. It's from the Talmud. It's not from the Bible. So I think that needs to be made clear. This is so Talmudi, you know, or Talmudian, whatever the adjective is. I don't think anyone has ever used that before, but you know, it's so typical, and I guess we shouldn't be surprised. But anyway, their depravity doesn't stop shocking us every day, does it?